Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, yes.
Live from Palm Springs, California, your host, Leozagami.
And the one only Christy Zagami. Now she's very famous. She just gave an interview with Professor Yamamoto. It was a very pleasant interview, Christy. You have a lot of new fans probably that are tuning in after after this very well put together interview from Professor Yamamoto.
Nice. Definitely. Really nice.
And he really went thoroughly through your two books, volume 1 and 2. Maybe we should do that also a little bit, because there is a lot of topics that are planted in these books that maybe need more discussion. However, let's start with our own show here. Okay. Let me check first of all if everything is fine here. Yes, so we seem to be up and running.
I told everybody about our love story.
I heard that, Christy. I heard that. And today, of course, the topic of the day is a little bit more serious, and it regards really some very bad news that is kind of continuously popping up. This constant talk of nuclear threats.
Guess what? Guess who he's copying?
Who?
Take a guess, guys.
Who am I copying?
Does this look familiar?
It looks familiar. I think
Johnny Depp wore a blue tie yesterday.
Yeah, but I'm wearing also. He wears a white crochet.
Is he your new idol, dress idol? I don't know.
No. But definitely, it's good that somebody is bringing back some good old fashioned here in the United States. Because one of the questions really that Professor Yamamoto brought up was the concept of sprezzatura. The concept of bringing back some dignity to dressing up in a certain way in the face of adversity. I thought that was really the concept he was trying to put through, and we did it. We did it for a long time. Me and you. But you don't need to have excessive amounts of money. You just need to just not be so. I mean, a lot of people just let themselves go when it comes down to dressing.
I think everybody looks fine.
You're being very polite, Christy.
No, I don't.
Very polite.
I try to look for the good in people. I don't watch people for how they look, because I didn't like when people judged me just from the outside.
No.
But they do, in society, we judge people on the outside way too much. And it's just,
Well, we are, of course, starting this Leo Zagami show in a manner that is maybe unusual, because we are covering Christie's latest interview, which just occurred with Professor Dario Yamamoto, who is a famous internet host here after years of academic work here in California. So we definitely enjoyed that interview. Now, let's go into the subject of today, because the subject of today requires a bit of concentration and a bit of seriousness from our side, because, I mean, here there is a world which is really a humanity which is spiraling on a path of self-destruction. That's what it seems like. We had, of course, several diplomatic attempts during the course of the last couple of days. Yet again, they all failed. The Secretary General of the United Nations, as you all know, went to Moscow, but Putin, most of this encounter was based on Putin giving his own account of what was happening, and also, of course, in saying what was the reason why Russia was acting this way. He also, in a way, forced Guterres to say, yes, we need to investigate more thoroughly the events of Bucha, as they are accused of war crimes. We need a more thorough investigation. At the same time, of course, there was no real coming to any substantial change in what is happening on the ground. Actually, things on the ground are going worse and worse each day, and they seem to start also a destabilization of Moldova, which I predicted a long time ago, through Transnistria. There were some anomalies there, some bombings and stuff. But the event that really triggered also a very angry reaction from Russia was, of course, the visit that the US did to Kiev with Blinken, and so this is really, it was like they felt like America went a little bit too far. That's basically what it seems the Russians have felt, and that pushed the Russians and Sergei Lavrov, to say some very strong words regarding the fact that there was a real danger that this conflict could trigger a third world war. And of course, he added that the threat of nuclear conflict was a serious one, a real one, adding that we must not underestimate it. Now, both me and Christy saw these confrontations and these announcements made on various TV stations from Europe during the course of the day. And it seemed like Zelensky replied to it almost like, and his foreign minister, almost kind of diminishing the importance of such a statement, kind of like saying, okay, Russia is really, Russia is not really left without anything else than just nuclear threats. But that doesn't seem to be really the case. I think that it's a little bit dangerous to underestimate at this point Russia and to corner Vladimir Putin. And so, going back to what has happened, we have also had, of course, a meeting in that famous airbase you went to, no, in Germany, Ramstein. Yes. So you were there when you were a kid, Christine. And what happened there?
It's just an airbase. I don't remember much.
Because you grew up partly in...
I lived in Bamberg, Germany, and so it's near Nuremberg.
Yes.
There.
And so
you
had some experience with that scenario, but it was, of course, the center of an international meeting of all those forces which are, of course, opposing Russia. And this happened after Blinken and Austin made a risky secret visit to Ukraine. That visit, unfortunately, like I said, really pissed off the Russians even more, bringing us to a scenario that seems of continuous escalation rather than de-escalation. That might include also, of course, the possibility of a nuclear threat. Now, all the planning that went on for the last few decades and how all this is unfolding is, of course, in this book, which was published in February, just before the beginning of the war, but already outlined the war, what will happen also next in the Pacific theater, and what's going to happen at the global level, because, of course, the Illuminati feel a need to bring us to the population. So today, Christy, I published an article, an article that, of course, you also edited, and it's an article of a certain importance because it involves, of course, the subject of today. And the subject of today, which I am glad a few people are appreciating, because I see that more and more are tuning in, and that's a good thing. You may wish to also share this video on your social networks of choice, as we are discussing something that is relevant for everybody. I'm talking here about, of course, this nuclear threat, this new, let's say, nuclear strategy of tension. Now, here, of course, I talk about Sergei Lavrov, but I also talk about the fact that the high-tech advances in weapon technologies at the moment, and the return of a great power nuclear politics might really risk bringing us, the whole world, sleepwalking into a nuclear age. A very different one made only of threats and relatively peaceful scenario, the Cold War, compared to what is happening now. Let me tell you, I mean, we never thought really that war could reach Europe once again, but that's what is happening. And all this, of course, with the NATO that is continuously expanding, and even probably accepting in the next few months both Sweden and Finland, which will make even more angry the Russian Federation. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. This is a show broadcast live from Palm Springs, California, 12 minutes past the hour. Here is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know where you are, wherever you are around the world. However, it's 12 minutes past. That's the same for everybody. And
hi, Lourdes. I see my friend.
Okay. And it's April the 26th. I will also talk about the so-called Liberation Day, they celebrated yesterday in Italy, a country that will be implementing the first credit score system in Europe. But let's go to the article which I have written, which talks also about this book, and talks about this testimony which came in a relatively recent article about the connections that Henry Kissinger has with nuclear weapons and foreign policy. I mean, it's of course very clear that the connection of Henry Kissinger with his passion for nuclear weapons influenced also his apprentice, the young Klaus Schwab, which in turn then founded the World Economic Forum. The Davos agenda kicked off with a symposium that later on became the World Economic Forum. And as the readers of my book know very well, then I talk about the connections also of Klaus Schwab with and his family with this company, and how this company got involved also in the nuclear arm race. But even in the very early stages of the development of the first atomic bomb with Germany, that was the father of Klaus Schwab. So it's kind of like a long line of people who are serving the evil side when it comes down to Klaus Schwab. Now, in this article I published today, I show, though, the links of people like Henry Kissinger, that you're checking out. This is a publication regarding Henry Kissinger, nuclear weapons and foreign policy. Because you see, the deterrent use of nuclear weapons became like a psychological operation in a massive scale, a strategy of tension that could be worked out between countries that, of course, threatened each other, knowing that nobody will actually enact upon that threat. Now, deterrence, though, works when you take the other guy who is in front of you seriously. What we would like to discuss with our viewers in the show today is, of course, the topic of the day, and also this deterrence that, the deterrence theory is based, and I write that on today's article on leozagami.com, in convincing another party to refrain from initiating some course of action. And then this concept of mutual assured destruction models the preventative nature of a full-scale nuclear attack. The problem is, if Russia says, I'm going to nuke you, and we laugh in his face, there is no more this understandings of the real dangers of a nuclear encounter. It's almost like you are just saying, yeah, but he's never going to do that. And that is really what is disturbing here. And what, I mean, from watching both Zelensky and his foreign minister talking, is really, I mean, shocking for me that we are, like I said earlier, just sleepwalking into a war that might become a nuclear war and that might destroy part of humanity. And so this is crazy. What do you think of this?
I think that the news is really taking it too lightly. They keep stressing the point that like Putin isn't doing very well. I always hear that he's not doing very well, and that his plans are not going the way he wants them to, and blah blah blah. And I just think that they don't know anything.
Now, we're still getting compliments for your interview with Professor Amamoto Christie on our chat, Katie Cat here. And then we want to say hello to Samuel Adams, Barbara K, Bruce, of course, Tony Griffith, Samuel Adams Katie. Again. Yes.
Hi, hi Barbara. Hi, Samuel. Say hi.
We covered everything. And hi also, I saw even Andrea Signini before. So from Italy.
Yeah, you're in my book.
Yeah,
he's in my book.
He's in the book.
He's a hero.
He's a hero. So humanity is suffering from a broken perception of risk, because we are spurring into activities and behaviors that will cause human extinction if enacted fully. It's like we are talking so much about climate change, but like it's the biggest threat, and the climate change disastrous event and all that, you know?
I mean,
but then they're not talking about the fact that
what's nuclear war going to do to your climate change?
Well, yeah. I mean, you just need a couple of nukes to probably change the weather of a whole continent. So it's the problem today, that they're not taking very seriously. It's like, you see, the media and the political figures, both in charge of the political world and the military world. I mean, all the figures, the public figures that we see parading on TV from the military and political world are woke. That's that's their culture. Woke, libtards, call them however you want. They are extreme libtards. And this really means that we might get surprised, but when eventually, I mean, we might get surprised. I think that you, our viewers, are getting ready, and that's also what I encourage with my book. If you see certain signs, you know immediately what to do, and this book explains you what to do and the time that you need to exit a city, to place yourself in a safe surrounding, and all the rest. We're talking about survival here. Survival because it is, like I said, a spiral of self-destruction. And the Russian foreign minister warning to not underestimate the threat of nuclear war. I know it's not the first time he has done this threat, but now it starts to become more realistic, because you see, there was, I remember I read this other declarations that were made by Vladimir Putin, and declarations that made by Vladimir Putin really make you understand. Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear. Russia is symbolized by the bear, this animal, which is a very particular kind of animal. So once a week, when we hear, because now it's becoming like a weekly occurrence almost of these nuclear threats. Let's go back 1 week to last week, when Vladimir Putin basically will only pull the trigger on nuclear warfare if he thinks Russia is under an existential threat. This was said by a former minister of foreign minister of Vladimir Putin. And are we going towards cornering too much the Russian Federation? If Russia or one of those countries really feel threatened, that has nuclear weapons, they will eventually use it. I mean, you could do the same to North Korea and have a reaction by Kim Jong-un. You could threaten China and they will act in the same way. I don't understand why they don't take seriously the threat of Russia, which is the country with the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. And so it seems a little bit paradoxical that they have invested for decades billions of money up until, imagine this, Christy, up until 2014, Barack Obama then canceled this thing, but it was happening up until the invasion of Crimea. Since the dismantling of the Soviet Union, we used to pay Russia every year over $1 billion, I think 400 million, $1.4 billion, only to preserve those dangerous nuclear arsenals from the old Soviet Unions and any dangerous waste from them. So we were paying Russia to safekeep the most dangerous of dangerous materials that ever came out during the Cold War. We, America. In 2014, we stopped giving this money to Russia because, of course, then Russia invaded Crimea. And things changed with the confrontation that started back then in the Donbass region, which of course was a limited confrontation by local militias aided by Russia, that now has taken a very different tone after the full-on Russian invasion of the 24th of February 2022. So today we discuss also with our viewers, what do they think? Is Russia really bluffing? Bluffing, is it? Or is it Russia to be taken a little bit more serious, like some experts say? I also saw that in Ramstein, they decided to have a monthly meeting. So it's not a moment in time in which you can say, okay, it's gonna be over in 2 weeks. No, these people are planning for a very long war, with a monthly meeting, just to keep on the whole thing. I think that when in 2014 I announced that America was preparing a new Cold War, people didn't take me too seriously. They're taking me a little bit more seriously now, because now we are at the height of a new Cold War, and I think it can get even worse, because this is gonna get really ugly, and it might get very ugly if they continue to challenge Russia and not take them seriously. So I have that impression that there's too much superficiality at times, even by, of course, the media that talk about this. No, so this is the Leo Zagami show. We of course invite you to support us with the purchase of my latest book, or the other ones that of course have been published by our Cursum Perficio, including also Christie's books, and we will of course also encourage those who can donate. We use GoFundMe still. We can't use any longer PayPal, but we use cashapp if you are in the United States, or Fundly, which works very well and is probably the one that is more used in general by our viewers. So we put it here on the screen. The goal is is basically to starve Nazi EU, but to Nazi EU to rise as the Fourth Reich of the Great Reset. You see, the thing is that they are quite happy with people owning nothing and being happy, because everything is the only things that they have is provided by the state. They are bankrupting people left, right, and center. In Italy, though, it's quite incredible, because yesterday there was the so-called Festa della Liberazione, no? A Liberation Day. And in the square, amongst all the flags, there was the Chinese flag. Now, there wasn't one flag of the United States of America, which was the country that liberated them. Palestinian flags.
What?
Chinese communist flags.
What is wrong with them?
What is wrong?
What is wrong with the Italians?
What is? I don't know what is wrong with it, but definitely something is definitely wrong. Something definitely wrong.
But then their balls went away after America liberated them.
Yes,
they had no balls. So.
Yes, they lost the balls. Yeah, they lost completely. So, going back to what former foreign Russian foreign minister said, Andrei Kozyev, these nuclear weapons could be used, but it's in very specific situations. So I hope they never use them. And of course, they will be used if NATO troops come to Moscow, he said, which I find rather highly improbable. I mean, you have to understand.
Why aren't they more scared? Is there some kind of an thing going on?
I think that history teaches a lesson, more than one, because they involve both Napoleon and Adolf Hitler. Both of them attempted to invade Russia, and unfortunately they ended up failing and losing everything they had. So I think that it's important that people realize that there has been some past encounters that have not really been profitable for the West when they have tried to mess up with Russia. But the problem is, of course, then you have Russia's ally, which is China. China, which is eager to keep the situation together and play at the moment the role of the diplomatic country that wants to stay in a way neutral, but we all know they actually declared it's actually siding with Russia, so there's no neutrality from China. We know that this is a Sino-Russian alliance, and it over and over again the foreign minister of both Russia and China have repeated that. So we know that the alliance between Russia and China is a very strong one. Now, though, the European Union has sent Ursula von der Leyen yesterday to India, because India is like, we all know that at the moment they buy weapons from Russia, they're very close to Russia, but Europe wants to push India towards them. They think they can get India, but India, I mean, it's like totally connected to both China and Russia. Yes, they might not have a great relationship with China on the border, but having said that, China is, of course, a country that they deal with. They have the higher, I think, import from China, higher than from Europe or from the United States. So I don't think that Ursula von der Leyen's visit to India will be anything that has brought a success to Europe. Europe has to understand that they can hardly provide for themselves and can hardly survive now that China is closer and closer to Russia rather than Europe. Europe is owned by China at the moment, basically. So what are they going to do? They're going to renounce to all the wealth that has been poured in the last decade or so by China, which literally has arrived in Italy in March 2019, buying the possibility of access to the main ports and doing all kinds of things that will help his Belt and Road Initiative. I think people need to understand that the West is, of course, being crippled by the Illuminati, who want to adopt the Chinese model ultimately, the Chinese model that locks you up, that builds cages around your buildings, that is forcing millions of people not only Shanghai now, but also now in Beijing, for only a few cases, cities of millions and millions. I'm talking about cities that are as big as half of Italy, the nation. I mean, the population is 25 million in Shanghai, locked up for a few, not even 100 cases or so. I mean, it's really not paranoia. It's more than paranoia. I mean, there is something else going on when you are literally ruining the economy of your state. So, I mean, China at the moment is kind of supporting Russia, but having internal problems. So what they do these very stringent lockdowns. What's behind them?
Yeah, what's behind them?
Why such a drastic, no?
Yeah, well,
Why is it? Because they are, of course, crashing also any kind of dissent towards Xi Jinping and his growing hold on the population that is just as bad as what the founder of modern communist China, Mao Zedong, did, even if it's not the founder of China itself. That is another guy. But we are here discussing today, and we would like to discuss later on also with our audience. First of all, if you think Russia's bluffing. If you think that we are doing the right thing by spending millions of our own money that we don't have in an economy that is sinking. Here in the United States, while I'm talking, we are hitting new lows rather than highs in the economy, because everything costs more at the shop. The gasoline is increasing, and it's kind of really incredible how Joe Biden keeps on sabotaging the oil industry at the same time. So this is really kind of a grim scenario here in America. And what do you think, Christy?
I'm just wondering, do they have all these different plans and they're just putting them all together to, okay, are they going to blow us up? Are they going to blow the world up? Are they going to starve us? Are they going to lock us in? Are they going to turn us into robots? What are they going to do?
Yeah, because, I mean, when you see General Milli Vanilli, who is, of course, not a drag queen, but friend of a very famous drag queen who is in charge of the ministry. He used to go to school with the, that Ministry of Health, I think that Secretary of Health, but whatever. He's woke as it gets. But he says basically the security in Europe since the end of the World War II is at stake now, US General says. Remember that by doing this, Europe, it's, of course, feels like America is on their side. Ukraine feels like America is on their side. But is America really doing this, and the Democrats in reality, to crush any possibility of distancing themselves from America? Because you see, Europe was getting dangerously close to China and Russia. It was kind of like ongoing, this whole thing. The infrastructures were going to China, the oil and the gas were coming from Russia, the material, the thousands and thousands, millions of products arriving daily from China. All this, of course, making Europe more and more irrelevant under an economic, yes, relevant because they have certain products in places like Germany, for example, where they still make BMWs, Mercedes, and whatnot. But to make all these products, remember, you need gas, you need oil, you need, even to make electric cars, you need to have the oil and the gas that kind of like, and the coal or whatever, that makes your factory work and produce these goods. And that is really a big problem for Germany now. And that's why Yellen, who used to be head of the Fed, and now it's at the Treasury, Yellen said, well, we can't really ask certain countries in Europe to really detach completely from Russia. But Russia today detaches itself from those countries who are waging war with the shocking announcement that Poland, from tomorrow, is to be cut out of all gas supplies from Russia. So what do you think of that, Christian?
Do they get all their gas from Russia?
Well, I mean, it's like Poland gets most of their gas from Russia, and it's a pretty cool country, let me tell you. So the International Energy Agency issued a statement of solidarity with Poland as Russia is poised to suspend all natural gas supplies to the country over Warsa's refusal to settle payments in rubles. This was, of course, a request that was made also to other countries that are belligerent against Russia at the moment, including Italy. So while Italy is going towards, I guess, the primavera, as they call it, they actually are already in the primavera, and they're probably thinking of their spiaggia, of their mare, and of their holidays, which is very stupid of the Italian population because they're going to have a rude awakening soon. But that's what's happening. In Poland, it's really cold most of the year. And without gas, well, you tend to get really cold. So Gazprom move to completely shut off gas is, of course, a weaponization of this thing, of these gas supplies to Poland. So it's another sign that Russia's, of course, politicization of existing agreements will, get things really bad. I mean, if they did a similar thing to Germany tomorrow, German economy will crash, and Germany is next door to Poland. So, of course, it will accelerate European efforts now to move away from Russian energy supplies. But here we are talking about...
Isn't it too late?
No, but I mean, also we are talking about these woke creatures, that you are used to see here in America. Oh, yes, we will do everything green. We will renovate. We will have some big solar panels, some other aeolic...
They care about the planet, but then the planet's going to get nuked. And then
the thing is also that... this thing takes time to build. It takes at least another 2 or 3 years to implement all these changes, and and now you need in the immediate the gas and the oil, but also you have many other problems that are created by an action like this, including, like you said, the geopolitical implications that push more and more these countries to fight a direct war. It's incredible. I mean, I think that what is happening with Poland, it's pretty heavy thing. I mean,
you have friends in Poland.
You have friends in Poland,
Mm-hmm.
Poland says that they're well prepared for such a scenario. So, Poland has the necessary reserves, they said, and sources of supply that protect our security. We have been effectively independent from Russia for years. Our warehouses are 76% full. There will be no shortage of gas in Polish homes. So they seem to be less dependent than Germany, at least on paper. Let's see what happens. Gazprom is halting their supplies through Bulgaria starting April 27. This is, of course, the latest news that we provide to you, thanks to our... people say, how do you know all this? Of course, I analyze, it's my job. I'm an investigative journalist, but I was also involved in the New World Order, as you know, and from a very privileged angle, I finally learned my way through geopolitics. And at that point, I have an understanding which is not limited, though, only to the economic, business, religious, interreligious, whatever side of things, but it's also dealing with the esoteric, with the occult side of things, no? And you were talking a very interesting point, I think, that should have maybe been developing further. The interview with Amamoto was on the Baltic, because definitely the Baltic region has a lot of pressure at the moment. There is a lot of pressure on this region, which is right next door to Russia, and it faces the possible aggression, though all of it is NATO. So it's NATO, but it's also neighboring, with the monster for them, because now the bear gets poked, and the bear gets poked one more time, it will react, and the first countries to feel that might be the Baltic countries. So, and the Baltic countries have a strange sense, like you were talking about in the interview, the Teutonic Knights, and of course, Estonia. It was a headquarter. There is this important place we went to visit, me and Christy, like the birth, or considered one of the most holy places of the Teutonic Knights. It was up that hill. We made some photos. It was some kind of like, it was all very beautiful, of course, but there is also black magic. There is also a return to Freemasonry, the Illuminati in all the Baltic states, which have been used to aggress in a more and more aggressive way, oppose anything Russia had of, they have actually Russian population even in Estonia or in other parts of the Baltic region, but they have been kind of cornered more and more. Not at the levels of Ukraine, where they have been literally persecuted and shot at after the start of the military confrontation of 2014, but definitely there has been a lot of pressure also on the Russian population living in countries like Estonia. In Tallinn is definitely a city made of people who are very much reliant on modern technology. Skype was created in Estonia. Then sold to Microsoft. But apart from all this, we have, of course, now this sudden happening with the gas, but we also have other things that are happening of relevance, and that's where I wanted to discuss also what is happening in my Italy. I say in my Italy because I come there. No? In my country. In my country. Well, Italy has announced a real dystopian social credit system, first of its kind in Bologna, basically. And we will go and check directly from the National Pulse here. This article shows you the level. And they have actually decided to launch this whole thing from a city which is, of course, Bologna, a city of Freemason, libtards, extreme libtards, and extreme left-wingers. A social credit system aimed at modifying climate change behavior is being deployed in Italy, and by 2023, authorities will attempt to modify citizens' behavior using a digital credit system. Now, Italy will start experiencing some changes when in Bologna, the first European city that will implement in Europe this social credit system on a model seen in China. If you behave well, they reward you. Bologna municipality is deploying a smart citizen wallet, which will be the primary method for citizens to collect digital coins in exchange for behavioral changes. So,
that's weird.
That's how it is, and that's how it is, and it is.
Is it your overall behavior, or like your behavior towards the climate? Like,
no. Like, for example, if there will be, depending on if you are taking the public transport, if you're taking the car, what road are you doing?
Like if you turn your air conditioner on.
If you that is a big no. That is part. That is already a national law. That is part of the thermostat. That is a different thing, and that is also bad. But here we are basically. It's like Massimo Bugani, who is the council, is basically the counselor for the digital agenda in this northern city of Italy, said that. While no one will be forced to use this application, he expects that high use uptake because people will be just wanting to get these points, getting a good credit score, just like in China. If you get a low credit score, then in China you can't even book a plane ticket anymore. You can't even have high-speed internet. They lower your internet. They do all kinds of things. I mean, it's a nightmare. But the EU seems to be going towards this nightmare, taking control of the whole continent, because they are creating the European ID digital wallet, which began its testing phase in 2021. And with this, it's all part of a plan to control and microchip the whole population, because that's what they're going to do next. But here it is. What is the European Digital Identity Wallet? The European Digital Identity Wallet is a European Commission project that has been led by its president, Ursula von der Leyen, and that is aiming to enable a unified digital identification system in Europe. European citizens will be able to digitally save their personal data and documents in an app that will be available to be used in any EU member state. This digital wallet, you see, is created, of course, after the pandemic. It will be the way for them to really control, because it's all based on control. And there is, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it, even the Getaway Pundit, and it makes us understand how Italy is really used for the worst experimentations. They were the first country to get COVID in the worst way possible, and parade people dead in these trucks, and people, locked up in their houses for never-ending periods of times.
Wasn't it like China first, and then Italy did their
Yes.
lockdown? Because I remember them saying, it's so lucky, from the windows.
Yeah, everything will be fine, they said. And then we are still 2 years later, and in Italy they still wear masks, even open air, until the end of this month, and they are still having to show their green pass, vaccine passport when they go at the bar having a coffee. Like I said, compliant citizens. That's the problem.
Because of the Vatican?
They are compliant. And then it's really sad.
They're not going to march on Rome.
Huh? They're not going to march on Rome. They're probably going to die in a very sad way if they continue like
that they march on Rome.
Well, but they're not going to. What happens instead?
No, we have to believe in them.
Well, we have to believe. We try to believe in them, but everything.
We have to try really hard.
I want to show you. I don't know if I can find this news in English, but this news shows you the level of idiocy in Italy. We are in the middle of Ramadan, and in Italy, in Turin, 2 Egyptian guys, and this is an Italian newspaper that says it, were attacked because they were smoking a cigarette. Now, the other Egyptians who were Muslims thought that they were Muslims too. In reality, they were Christian Coptic. They had nothing to do with Islam or with their Ramadan. But they got beaten up in the streets of Turin where we went. So this makes you understand. I mean, the Sharia in the streets of Italy. What? I mean, it's this crazy stuff. I mean, people should wake up. Well, like they said, they regret it. Well, of course they regret it. But unfortunately, and on top of all this, then you have the rationing of the energy to support Ukraine. And that is the thermostat operation, as it's called, wherein that is being discussed by Paul Joseph Watson here. And that basically it's like from next month on, Italy will begin rationing electricity to support Ukraine, with public buildings banned from running air conditioning at lower than 25 degrees or heating higher than 19 degrees. We're talking about, of course, Celsius, not Fahrenheit. But this is part of Operation Thermostat. And it's basically you have to sacrifice yourself in the name of Ukraine. I mean, this is insane.
And I know they don't care about Ukraine.
It's I mean, I don't care. The Italians are desperados themselves after 2 years of this never-ending lockdown, pandemic, whatever. So it's like they have already some serious issues, but they were Russian, you know. It's crazy. I think it's crazy. It's crazy that we have a digital plan in Italy, in the Comune of Bologna, which represents really the most communist place in Italy. This really demonstrates that Italy is in league with the devil. That's it, because communism is satanic. There's nothing here to discuss. Communism is satanic. Somebody talks about Khazarian mafia. I will suggest before you talk about Khazarian stuff to maybe study the Sabbatean Frankists. Maybe you will get a better understanding of certain things that regard Judaism. Bologna is full of graffiti. Yes, that's true too. Unfortunately, it's full of communists.
You didn't go, huh? You never went there.
We never went together. No.
Did I go close?
But I mean, what was the reason to go to Bologna? I mean, it's one of the most communist. I used to go there back in the days when I was a Freemason, because it's a city full of Freemasons also, but it's a city to avoid if possible. Not because you don't eat well. They make some great ravioli and great tortellini, but apart from that. Somebody says capitalism is also Satan, but I think that there is no comparison between communism and capitalism, Jara. I think there is no comparison. The possibility that I am doing a better life here means that you are wrong. I couldn't even say the things I'm saying here in Europe, which is in the hands of the left communist, that in reality is the most extreme right-wing agenda, because they are the Fourth Reich. This whole thing is the Fourth Reich. Germany was called the Fourth Reich. Well, Europe's Fourth Reich is on a collision course, and they are actually doing it to suicide most of their people, because that's what they're doing. They're imposing things that are a suicide for most of the European people. Then of course they will probably get their karma back because of what they did to us, but that's another thing. we are of course forgiving.
I pray for Italy.
So welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Please forgive us if we will maybe now start demanding for your maximum attention and your phone calls. We demand your attention and your phone call, because no, otherwise they don't call. So we demand it and the phone.
I want to clear something up.
Yes.
During the interview with Professor Yamamoto,
yes,
I say Yamamoto because it's always in my head because that's a designer.
Yes.
But I said that Bela Lugosi was Italian, and then you told me he's not.
He's Hungarian.
He's Hungarian. Oops! I thought he was Italian. Bela Lugosi,
Bella ragazza, bella ragazza. He probably, from what I know, he used an Italian sounding name because it was at the times of Rodolfo Valentino, of the big Italian Italo-American actors that were good looking, and so he wanted to fit into that kind of thing, and he called himself in that way. But no, he wasn't. He was Hungarian. And Hungarians, of course, they have their own fair share of history, though. Interesting history, of course. Very interesting history. Okay, let's see what they're saying here in the chat. Certain hybrids were bred for different climates and disease-resistant varieties. Wow, man, we have some super conspirational people here in the chat every now and then. Let's continue with the news. Let's continue with the news. Everybody's, of course, talking about the only subject that seems to be at the moment is only talking about Twitter and the purchase that was made of Twitter by Elon Musk, and that seems to be, people are really they're really interested with that, Christy. But what we are interested here instead is this idiot who basically is the Twitter stop lawyer, who cried during meeting about Musk takeover. I mean, Elon Musk takeover, and the libtards are crying, yeah, Musk is taking over. We can't censor anymore. And it was actually the lady who was more responsible than others for the censorship. Viviana Gade, a key executive involved in decisions to remove former President Donald Trump and ban political advertising, express uncertainty about the future of the platform. Ooh. She's the extreme libtard here we're talking about. You know, Gade cried during the meeting as she expressed concerns about the company could change. She acknowledged that there are significant uncertainties about the company will look. But we are talking about free speech finally. Finally, free speech. Finally, free speech. Gade played a leading role in negotiating the deal between Twitter and Musk, according to one person familiar with the dynamics. But in the end, though, they couldn't. But however, Trump has refused to go back on the platform anyway. He doesn't want to have anything to do with it anyway. So, who cares? He might have wanted to tell the world this way that he doesn't need the Twitter. However, it might have been great to have him back on Twitter, because I think that Twitter went really down the drain after he left. There's not much controversy and interest towards this social platform. The good things, the good changes that Elon will implement, verification of one's identity, and this I'm very glad of, because there's a lot of fake bots, how you call them, fake profiles on Twitter, people defamating me, my wife, continuously on Twitter.
On Twitter, it's particularly
bad. And that's why I was even thinking of taking a legal action in the next few months, but let's see what Elon Musk does. Otherwise, I will have to sue Elon Musk. But yes, he seems to have a lot of money.
I would like to sue Twitter.
Yeah, for what they did, because really it's very bad. The level of defamations that we've been, and I have been myself as a Leo Zagami signed out of Twitter, so it's really sick. It's really sick. But
there's probably 10 or more fake profiles of me on there. I have my own, and you can see it's me. And then there's all the fake ones, and they're in Italian. So if anybody sees them on there, please report them, because they won't do anything. I reported it over and over again.
In any case, people like Gad instead have taken off accounts because they talk about Hunter Biden's laptop, or the origins of the coronavirus coming from the Wuhan lab, things that actually later proven to be correct. And then instead they keep these people screaming.
They say that you have a little winky.
Who said that?
They say you have a little winky on Twitter.
Was it a gay guy?
I don't know.
Because I thought there was a gay guy who was defaming me.
No.
I saw it. I remember.
It's me in my fake profile site.
Oh God, that's bad. But there was, I remember, a gay guy instead who said Leo Zagami is gay.
On Twitter?
Yeah, I think that was a little bit lame though. A little bit lame. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I'm apparently
sorry,
into Berlusconi and all his women.
Somebody said Shabbat Sabbatian Frank is not that's not correct. I know very good people in Shabbat, so I don't know. Maybe you should study a little bit more the Sabbatian Frankists, because I got the best books against the Sabbatian Frankists from friends in the Shabbat. Leo proved them wrong. Yeah, sure, I'm gonna take it out here.
I'll vouch.
Bye, vouch. Okay, guys, after 1 hour, we usually always open the phone line. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to also continue talking about the subject of today, which is a very, very serious subject. But we like to have your perspective on this whole nuclear threats that keep on coming in. Is Russia bluffing? Is not bluffing? Are we going to find ourselves soon with a nuclear confrontation that spirals out of control? What's your idea on all this? Well, of course, I will put, as usual, the phone number here on the screen for you, +1 970 577 6369. Here we are, and we're going to be opening now the phone lines for you. You can, of course, call whenever you want in the next 29 minutes at disposal before we close down the lines and say bye-bye. Okay, so let's move on. Somebody says Elon Musk is all over the internet more than Johnny Depp. Now, Johnny Depp. Well, I mean, Johnny Depp was a little bit funny. He finally ended this 4-day, at least for him, I think. I hope. I mean, it's been going on. It's been like, I don't know. I mean, he kind of definitely seemed to have at least some sense of humor, calling himself an old junkie. What did you think about Johnny Depp? We have a phone call, by the way. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with? Hey, okay. So, what do you think of the topic of today? And do you think Russia is bluffing or not?
Well, you know, I'm not worried about Russia. I'm going to tell you why. This came across my mind today, actually. The United States established 5 precedents when it used the first nuclear weapon the first time. And I'm going to tell you what they are, and I'm going to tell you why we don't need to be afraid of Russia, because Russia is bluffing. Number one, we developed it first. We used it first. We didn't hesitate. We used it to end a war, okay? And we used all of our weapons. We only had 2 nukes. We used all of it, even though we said we had more. And that was the very first time that nuclear weapons were ever used. Mm-hmm. That was almost some 80 years ago. Mm-hmm. Do you think that the United States is scared of what Russia would do?
Yeah, but the deterrence here, it's like there was kind of a mutual threat agreement, you know, like...
I'm going to let you in on something, Leo. The United States has, even though they don't like to say it and mention it, they do have first strike capability. They know where anything's happening anywhere in the world. Russia does not have that capability. That's why Putin has to think about it for a second. Why don't we?
You know that technically speaking, our own hypersonic arsenal is not so advanced as even the Chinese or the Russian ones are. At the moment, it seems
that's current thoughts. Okay.
No, I'm talking about what at least we are sold by even the mainstream media. But then also we have to understand. That there is a lot of secrets that.
Mainstream media.
No, but of course, regarding instead the military, we all know that it was thanks to Donald J. Trump that we went back and reinvested in the nuclear arsenal that was falling into pieces. So at least we definitely had an improvement from how we were before Trump came into power. But having said that, even the use of a small part of they have the biggest arsenal I'm talking number-wise.
I would contend two things.
One thing I would like to ask you, though. Have you ever been in Russia?
I would like to go very much. I very much admire Russian people. I like Russian people naturally. I've had a lot of Russian friends when I lived in New York.
Okay.
So I have no problem with Russia.
But you never experienced their own country and what they think.
Well, I'm speaking from a basis of military and that sort of thing. I understand the whole basis of the war in Ukraine and Putin and Russia a right to defend themselves. So let's just take that off the table, okay? And I understand why they would threaten nuclear war, okay? I understand that. All I'm saying then is that the command structure of the United States is not threatened by it, nor are they deterred by it. If they were, they would be going back to the negotiating table, when in fact they're pushing Ukraine more and more into the war, supplying them more and more with weapons. I know about everything that happened.
It seems to us, though, here that this whole action is simply to weaken more and more Europe and a Europe that was dangerously close to Russia in the last few years, especially Germany, which is considered the most important country in the European Union. And after this war, probably they no longer going to be as influential because they are starting to have some serious economic problems. But I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand, I lived in Russia, in Europe, I worked in Germany.
Your perspective with that, you're quite right. The problems with the United States foreign policy don't lie in Washington. It lies in London. The British hate the Russians. And the United States has adopted what British dislike. And if the United States and Russia were allowed to naturally develop a relationship, they would be natural allies and friends. That's never allowed to happen because of the Brits, okay? And the British...
And what is your perspective on the French?
The French are more inclined to like Russia for a lot of other reasons, for the same reasons, because the British are the ones who really despise Russia. And Washington has this need to follow in some respects, crown policy, and this is generational. This is going back many, many decades. Okay, so the
only thing. I mean, I definitely commend you for your perspective, and I thank you for calling. But I still think that you don't realize that an angry bear, if cornered, might reply with some. In a way that we might find inappropriate, because we have been brought up here in the age, of course, of deterrence, in which we all believe that nobody will do such a crazy move. But I mean, if you had 6,000 nuclear weapons at disposal, will you use them if you got cornered? Of course you will. Like I will use a gun if I was cornered in a confrontation in normal setup. So I mean,
it's that Russia right now is not cornered.
Yes, that we can agree. I can agree that Russia is yet not cornered. There is definitely still kind of remains, of course, to see what's going to happen in the next few weeks. And I think that they will probably get what they want, which is the southeast side of Ukraine, which, of course, though it's...
They'll get all of Donbass, they'll get all the waterfront of the Black Sea, all the way to Odessa.
And let's go and check now the latest map by the British Defense Intelligence. Here we are, of course, with the map, the present map here. What's happening here is that they want to advance on Kherson, which is down here. Kherson seems to be now a place of interest for the next week or so, where military operations will be developed. We have Odessa here, which is, of course, being struck, but they need eventually to occupy also Mykolaiv, Kherson, and reach to Odessa to then enter Transnistria, which more easily would become the target.
They want to link up the land bridge from Donbass all the way.
Yes, they want to. Right. Yes, they want to take this part here, of course, which, though, if you can notice here, includes the most important nuclear reactor, which is Zaporizhia, which is, of course, a very dangerous situation because yesterday a couple of missiles were launched in the proximity of the nuclear plant. So thank you for calling with, of course, your own take on things. We would like to hear, of course, more listeners and viewers of our show. 10 minutes past the hour. This is the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy Zagami. And your take, Christy, on what is going on.
So is California saying that like America can strike, but like we can strike first, like we would know?
I mean, the thing is supposed to here, because the moment in which you start striking with nuclear weapons, whoever strikes, it's a loss of lives of immense proportions. Hello there, the Leo Zagami Show. Put down your audio. Okay, great. Hello there. Who am I talking with? Hello?
Oh, hi. This is Gerald from Los Angeles.
Oh, welcome to our show. Do you enjoy our show? I never had you before, so I'm asking you these questions.
Yeah, I enjoy your show. I like your book.
Oh, thanks.
You know, I think, you know, between all the governments, we all need to try to, if you don't know anything, just try not to push the envelope too far before everyone gets annihilated.
Yeah.
And do you think they are pushing a little bit too far, the libtards in control of our military, the woke generals of Joe Biden?
Well, it's controlled only by several people. The media is pushing the envelope. The person behind Joe Biden is pushing the envelope. And you look across the world, it's all leaders in every country aligning themselves one side or the other side, and it's creating very uncertain times.
Hmm. So, do you think we are close to this nuclear apocalypse?
Well, yes, it's close. It really depends, really, on several people making a decision. And, you know, my basic question was really to ask, why does the Pope have all this power to direct people around the world?
The Pope has all this power because basically he's inheriting the position that used to be of the Roman Emperor. You see, we never really detached from that. We've simply transformed the the Roman Empire then became the Holy Roman Empire and then became something else. Especially formally, there was a document that was made anchored in the Sacred Roman Empire in Germany. And that document is then one of the key documents of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, which, as you know, is considered the driving force of American Freemasonry. We have Rambo here that is walking around. We will pick him up now before he escapes to our control. But yes, the problem is the Pope inherits all the power that is not only over the Roman Emperor, but is the power that used to be of the pharaohs, because you have to understand that there was, of course, not only Rome, but there was also Egypt, and Rome and Egypt at one point came together, and that is also part of the legacy that Christianity brought when it was adopted as a religion of the empire by Constantine. There was then a period of time in which, of course, they defined how this faith was, but at times probably not totally reflecting on the entirety of the teachings of Jesus. One thing, though, we know is that we will inevitably reach this moment of confrontation, and that moment of confrontation is now, as you can imagine.
That's correct.
So I hope that I can give you the right answer here by saying that, first of all, you should also abandon your city whenever you can and relocate in a place that is a little bit less risky living in the case of such an attack. You have to understand that there is certain military bases also that, of course, you should be far from, but you also have to be far from the main cities, and LA is, of course, a target. At the same time, in the case of social unrest, which is highly possible in the next few months, if they continue with the growing prices, there's going to be famine. There's going to be famine, there's going to be social unrest, and cities are going to become more and more dangerous. So that is an advice that I want to really give you with my heart. And that is also part of the teachings of the Great Reject. Know when to abandon your city. It's one of the teachings of this book, which I hope you have purchased. But aside from that, I hope that you can relocate in a city which is a little bit less risky than where you're living now. What do you think of that?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say that, because maybe, you live a lifetime in a city and you might like that city like LA, but then you have to realize that it is also a place which in the case of social unrest can become very dangerous. So always kind of find your escape routes. Plan for a quick, to leave your city within a matter of half hour, 1 hour. You have to know which are the best exit points without encountering any traffic. Because, of course, I'm not talking here about only the possibility of a nuclear strike, which I actually hope it never happens. And I think that the deterrence is still in place to some extent. Of course, it might be possible that in the next couple of months, Putin will simply unleash that kind of nuclear tactical weapon on a city in Ukraine, simply to make a statement, which will be, don't mess with me, that's it, boom. And it will, of course, create the death and destruction of a lot of people. So this is what I think at the moment. Any further questions?
No further questions.
Thank you so much for calling. Hope you call us also in the future. And also, if you haven't got my latest book, as you said, you read all my books, get it, because it might be of help to understand more of today's topic. Because, of course, this topic was in some way discussed in my book, even if it's still an unfolding topic. What is Rambo doing? Here he is, Rambo, the one and only Chihuahua. Oh, Rambo, what are you doing? It's so cute. He wanted to wrapped up in a blanket.
He likes it. He likes it.
I think that Europe, it's really the place, the war theater of the next few years that unfortunately will only expand. So we will have to see how well the Europeans will do once the gas will, of course, be interrupted, then the oil also. Countries like Italy will have a lot of problems without their reliance on gas and oil from Russia is very high, just as in Germany. I'm quite impressed, though, that Poland is not so dependent on it, because it would seem naturally. Probably they foreseen what was about to happen. I mean, people like Donald J. Trump had warned the Germans to not get so cozy with the oil and the gas from Russia. They laughed in his face. That was probably a very bad move from the Germans. Regarding, of course, what is happening here in this world order, Henry Kissinger says, this book also talks very much about the international order created also by the equilibrium of war, which of course people like Henry Kissinger have used during their career at the highest levels of this new world order. Here it says the advent of nuclear weapons brought this process to a culmination. In World War II, scientists from the major powers labored no achieved mastery of the atom, and with it the ability to release its energy. That was really a very important moment. But by the end of, we go to the following page, and it says by the end of the 1960s, the prevailing strategic doctrine of each superpower relied on the ability to inflict an unacceptable level of damage on the presumed adversary. What the adversary will consider unacceptable was, of course, unallowable, nor was the judgment communicated. A surreal quality haunted this calculus of deterrence. This is Henry Kissinger talking in his book, World Order. And then he says, which relied on logical equations of scenarios positing a level of the casualties exceeding that suffered in 4 years of world war and occurring in a matter of days or hours. This seemed like, people understood that if you can kill millions of people in a matter of minutes, then they will think about it twice or more than twice before enacting certain policies. This didn't seem to be the case, though, now, with Zelensky instigating more and more this conflict. The Zelensky, but Zelensky, of course, with the Democrats behind, with Obama, with all the people, George Soros, and the whole Illuminati, because we have several groups from the Illuminati that operated in Ukraine, including the group of Giuliano Di Bernardo. What's happening? He's so cute. What's that? What are you gonna say? You wanna talk about it? Okay, don't worry about it. So here it says, as the Reykjavik summit in 1986, Reagan reversed the mutual assured destruction approach. He proposed the abolition of all offensive weapons by both sides and the scraping off of the anti-ballistic missile treaty, thereby allowing a defensive system. Now, this was really a turning moment in history. I still remember that meeting, Reagan, Gorbachev, Reykjavik, 1986, great music for those who love the 80s music. And it was a great moment to live at that time, because there was this mirage of peace. Here it says, and this is, of course, always Henry Kissinger talking, since then, the number of strategic nuclear defensive warheads has been reduced, first under President George W. Bush and under President Obama by agreement with Russia. So there was a decline. There was a moment in which they decided to reduce this nuclear deterrence arsenal. And it seemed like things were going better, but then after, it all went to hell. The nuclear balance, as Kissinger said, has produced a paradoxical impact on the international order. So he himself calls it a paradoxical impact. The historic balance of power have facilitated the Western dominations, though he admits this, Henry Kissinger. Now, the fact that it has only facilitated the Western dominations is basically that the problem here for somebody like Vladimir Putin. It's like facilitating only the West, not Russia. Russia being cornered more and more. with the threat of Ukraine joining NATO. So it is really a margin of military superiority that in the end, though, has pushed Putin to do this dramatic decision. And of course, there is a challenge that we are facing now that humanity has never faced. The fact that the West doesn't understand the mind, once again, of the Russian counterpart, of the Russian people, and they seem to be, like I said right at the beginning of this show, sleepwalking in what might become really a dark winter for humanity. Somebody is asking me, Leo, which volume of your book is best for learning about Sabbatean Frankists? I would say volume 4 as well as volume 7. These are two books which give you a very wide idea of who the Sabbatean Frankists are. I would say that in volume 4 you can find also their interconnections with various occult organizations. A lot of people don't know, but it was actually Sabbatai Zevi who inspired the do what thou wilt philosophy of Aleister Crowley. And it was a guy called Max Theon who was the mentor of Madame Blavatsky. But Madame Blavatsky, guys, who founded the Theosophical Society, wasn't she Russian after all? Had married in her youth a very rich gentleman who died soon after, and then she became this very particular figure. And she was also, she had an Ukrainian name aside from a Russian one. Let me think that maybe she had some link with Ukraine. She was born into an aristocratic family of Russian-German descent. In the Russian Empire, but in reality, the town where she was born was now Ukraine. It's the town of Dnipro, known as Dnipropetrovsk, which is Ukrainians' fourth largest city with about 1 million inhabitants. And that was the birthplace for Elena Blavatsky. Now, if we understand how dangerous Elena Blavatsky, her spiritualist movement, were for the development, the successive development of modern Satanism, how important it was in crafting and putting together that New Age philosophy that pervades still nowadays the headquarters of the United Nations, then we understand that she claims she encountered a group of spiritual adepts, the masters of ancient wisdom, but in reality, and she said she met them when she went to Tibet, and where she was trained to develop a deeper understanding of all these things. Then, of course, she recollocated in the United States in 1873. Then she met with Henry Steele Olcott, and then she founded in 1875 the first Theosophical Society Lodge with William Kwan Judge. William Kwan Judge. I think here, so name this guy. William Kwan Judge.
Kwan Judge, is he Chinese?
No, but he had a name that definitely looked like he was Chinese. Yeah, definitely a very particular name, but he was actually Irish.
I think he had some Chinese in there somewhere.
So this is really, we have gone down the rabbit hole. No, we went down the rabbit hole like in Alice in Wonderland. We went deep into the rabbit hole, and then we find that the home, the birthplace of modern Satanism, if without the Theosophical Society, there would not have been Aleister Crowley's OTO. It wouldn't have been a possibility of aspiring in Berkeley, then Anton Levi's Church of Satan. They wouldn't have been then the Temple of Set, and then led to the birth of the Satanic Temple. These are facts. This is not hypothesis. This is not like we are. And the day after Blavatsky died, the Theosophical Society was basically taken over by the Jesuits gradually. So it all brings us back also to that. There was the Jesuits who went to Tibet. And so what was Blavatsky really bringing back from Tibet? That is also another point here. And so we are in front of the birthplace of modern Satanism, Ukraine. Huh? Did I clear up today in my 90 minutes of show all this? Because, like I said, Blavatsky was born in Dnipro in Ukraine. She traveled around the world, of course. She was somebody who influenced people like Giuseppe Garibaldi in Italy, who was her friend. She fought in Italy against the Vatican army when they were, because the Vatican was defending their position as in the temporal power against the unification of Italy. So we have one last call here. We're about to end the show, but we have one last call. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with? Hello? 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 We can't seem to hear you. Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear him.
We can hear you.
Hello?
Hello there. Where are you calling from?
This is the sauna boy from Wisconsin.
Okay,
Hi.
welcome to our show. Any questions or any comments on our show and our topic
My
today?
comment is I went to grade school in the 60s.
Mhm.
And we used to
Hello?
we used to do the duck and cover drills, which are ridiculous.
Because you were in the height of the Cold War back then, eh?
Yeah, and I lived with the high school or the grade school I lived in or went to was 13 miles from K.I. Sawyer Air Base, which was a SAC air base. But
and what do you think of what is happening now? Because I think that the problem here is that we are in the hands of people who have never lived the Cold War in the first place or tend to forget it.
Russia has civil defense. We don't.
Yes. I guess that they are also they have done for years massive drills also on nuclear attacks on in each of their cities. We never did that here in the United States.
They abandoned it, and
that is a bit sad that we are not that ready. What do you think will happen here? Because you think Russia is bluffing, or they're going to use something sooner or later?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that the U.S. is totally satanic now. Well, if you look at everything that's practiced in this country, so I don't know. I think it might be talk, but we deserve it if it happens.
Well, of course, we pray that doesn't never happen, but I thank you for calling today with this interesting question and comment. Hello, welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with?
Scotty!
Okay, where you come from?
Hey, Leo, this is Scotty.
I know.
Scotty. Are you from Texas?
No, he's from New York.
New York?
Are you from New York? Hello?
Oh, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I got
Oh, yeah, he's from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you recognize the
That's
accent?
I recognize it.
You're from New York yourself.
I recognized it from before.
I'm from Italy.
I knew it.
Bay 49th Street.
Where?
Bay 49th Street.
Bay 49.
Oh, Bay 49. Oh, Bay 49. I was on 71st Street and 16th Avenue.
There you go.
you see, not too far. So today, your impression of this topic and any comments you have on it?
Yes, as usual,
always miss the beginning. I don't know what time you guys are starting. But anyway, listen, oh man, I don't think it's time yet. I really don't. Like I told you last time, it's not time yet. I think Trump will be the one who will start World War III. And
so you stick to that hypothesis that we still have to wait Trump coming in before seeing a reaction here. But remember that the reaction could not come from America, but rather from Russia, that is getting more and more pissed off.
Well, the other thing is, I don't believe we even have nuclear weapons. I don't believe anyone does. I think it's all propaganda. You know,
this is a kind of extreme. You are an extreme negationist of the nuclear agenda. I mean, I like this
I like
take.
that. I hope it's true.
I hope it's true. Definitely,
I
you are.
put that in my mind.
I can say one thing, though. This sparks a very interesting discussion. I think that it is important for people to understand that they were actually more of a psychological deterrent than a real deterrent. I mean, I read all these things by Henry Kissinger, but Henry Kissinger himself was an expert in psychological operations. So definitely you are partly right, definitely with your statement, though I believe there is some truth to nuclear deterrence and the fact that some nukes unfortunately exist. But let's hope you're right. What can I say? Let's hope you're right.
Well, I believe I'm right. And, you know, the thing is that what they do is they base everything on fear, like COVID.
The thing, in fact, that we could discuss with you, either, I mean, and this will go beyond your question, is the fact that you might be wrong, but still you are right in the sense that they will always use nuclear deterrence as a strategy of tension for psychological means, which is to inflict that level of control on the population that is even bigger than the one they have achieved with the pandemic.
Well, in the words of Billy Joel, you may be right. I may be crazy.
Well, thank you.
Just may take a lunatic you're looking for. Hey, listen, you know what we need is more love. We need more love.
That's right.
More aid.
Make love, not war, then. Thank you, Scotty. Make love, not war. And that was definitely, that was a good call to end up with today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. 37 minutes past the hour. We went 7 minutes past our time, but we had to take this phone calls. No, Christy. Thank you so much for following the Leo Zagami show. Please tune in again on Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
My butt hurts from sitting on this chair for 3 hours.
Oh, you want me to touch your butt?
No.
That's okay.
It's not 3 hours.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep on supporting this show, even with a small donation. Make it possible for us to dedicate all our time here for this show, at least 3 times a week, you know, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy.
See you Thursday.
Everyone have a wonderful night. Take care.
No nukes. I like that.
So now you have the nukes negationist. Will they ally with the COVID negationist and make a big party together? All the best. And that's it from Palm Springs, California, the Leo Zagami Show.